Well, for more on foreign aid, the United States, and what comes next, we're joined by Lisa Daftari. She's an investigative journalist and editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk. Good to see you.
See you.
Okay, I guess the question is, what does the retaliation in terms of foreign aid, what does that look like? How does the president follow through on this threat? And, you know, if he doesn't, what does that mean?
It's not a threat. It's more a warning. And this is something that Donald Trump, then candidate Trump, was very, very, very strong about saying, that if we're going to dole out the money, that there has to be the leverage that's attached to that money. We can't just keep writing checks to actors such as Pakistan or to now you see the countries that have voted now against what we're our interest in the area. Basically, it's not charity. This is meant to echo the foreign policy of the United States. And this is one instance where that warning was served. It's not charity, but many people see it as charity, especially in the United States, especially people who support Donald Trump, Republicans especially. So this is sort of a domestically a winner politically for Donald Trump. The problem is that, you know, foreign aid actually is not a one-way street. You know, donor countries get something back. You know, there are many examples that countries have been stabilized, like Indonesia received a lot of foreign aid. It was politically stabilized, and it basically ended or reduced significantly the threat from terrorism. There was one study which found investing $1 in prevention saves the world $10 in post-conflict recovery costs, and preventing a war is 60 times cheaper than fighting one. But selling prevention is really hard. It's like what we stopped happening. Yeah, but at the same time, you have countries such as Turkey, such as Yemen, such as Iran or Saudi Arabia, who are given the floor at an institution like the UN, where we're putting all this money in. These countries back at home have gross human rights violations. They're abusing women. They're abusing children. They have a long list of violations, but they use that podium to call out the United States on something that's calling Jerusalem the capital of Israel, which is something that's been established already. So I think what Donald Trump's meaning to do, and this is a nonpartisan move for any American. This is not Donald Trump's piggy bank money. This is not Democratic or Republican money. This is U.S. taxpayer money, and there should be leverage, and there should be an outcome. I think you're absolutely right to say that there are many instances where that aid is meant in the long run to benefit the world community and the United States security as well. But I think that when we're seeing these actors come out and do things that are against U.S. interests, and that's where you have to pull the plug, or at least deliver a stern warning that you will pull the plug. I think, you know, there has been criticism of countries receiving U.S. foreign aid in the past, how it's been allotted, who got what, and that criticism is fair. And I guess that's for another conversation. But what has been talked about over the last 24 hours is using foreign aid as an instrument to threaten countries, to bully countries, if you like, to support a U.S. position which is against their own position. Because, you know, back in February, when Donald Trump was, the Trump administration was proposing big cuts to the foreign aid budget, everybody went and ran and started playing this one soundbite from the Defense Secretary, James Mattis. This was when, in 2013, his last year in the Marine Corps. This is what he said.
If you don't fund the State Department fully, then I need to buy more ammunition, ultimately. So I think it's a cost-benefit ratio. The more that we put into the State Department's diplomacy, hopefully the less we have to put into a military budget as we deal with the outcome of an apparent American withdrawal from the international scene.
Yeah, and also this year, we heard from about 100 retired generals and admirals. They wrote to Congress denouncing cuts to foreign aid budget. This is part of what they wrote. We know from our service in uniform that many of the crises our nation faces do not have military solutions alone. So again, is there a complication if you are throwing another level onto who gets what foreign aid, and that comes down to, do you support the United States in the UN? And not just on this issue. Yeah. What they're saying is pretty much on every issue you've got to support the United States, or you won't get the money.
Well, yeah, I think we're both saying the same thing in the sense that we're controlling the outcome to whatever extent we can. And I think that the positive thing here is that whether it's Nikki Haley or Donald Trump, we're pulling the reins in and saying, we're giving out the allowance. Right. You need to do your chores. You need to pay back, whether it's the NATO countries, whether it's the UN nations, whether it's whatever we're putting our money in. We have to see that that the interests are at least echoed.
Look, Russia and China have made no secret of the fact. Well,
Sure.
they actually have made a secret of the fact, but it is no secret that Russia and China use their foreign aid and influence to get what they want.
Absolutely.
It's just that they do keep it a secret. This was just so overt and so shocking. I think that's why a lot of people found it quite stunning.
You know, it's stunning because it's Donald Trump. And I think there's two elephants in the room here. One is to say that there is a known bias at the UN against Israel. That's one thing, we can put it aside. There's also this allergic, sensitive, overreactive reaction to whatever Donald Trump puts out there.
Right.
Now, let's talk about how Egypt's aid was cut under President Obama. Why? Because of human rights abuses. So that aid hasn't fully been reinstated yet.
Yeah.
So we're talking about further cuts to countries that are undermining. We cannot have countries at the UN deciding our foreign policy based on a bogus vote. It's irrelevant.
All right, we're out of time. I will say the cuts to Egypt's aid because of human rights abuses, because the aid was tied to improvement in human rights abuses, which never
Exactly,
happened.
but that's saying the same thing.
Okay.
Controlling the outcome. I think we're both agreeing, but we're saying...
We agree. We're talking around each other. It's good to see you. Thank you.
Absolutely.